Hello, I'm Pauline Sweeney and I'm the harpsichord teacher in the CIT Cork School of Music. I came to love the harpsichord when I was a student in UCC. I was very fortunate to have a teacher called Christopher Stembridge who was getting into harpsichord. I started by playing the organ, learning the organ, and of course they're very related. But so I've been involved with harpsichords for the last 45 years probably. I'm going to show you this beautiful harpsichord, which I'm very lucky to have. It's actually an 18th century harpsichord. I'll tell you more about the history of this particular harpsichord a bit later, but for now I'm just going to show you how the harpsichord works. So as you will know, the piano works with hammers hitting the strings, but a harpsichord is plucking the string. So the mechanism is very simple. We have rows of jacks. So I have 3 rows of jacks, what we call jacks. They're these little simple wooden sticks. And what is actually plucking the string is a little plectrum from a feather. I have some feathers here for renewing them. Now modern harpsichords actually use plastic, but because this is an old instrument, we're using, these are, they used to use raven feathers. But these are actually black turkey feathers. You scrape off the matter here and you end up with a little, I suppose they used to use them also for writing. So you can imagine you have this very, very strong little plectrum at the end. So the mechanism is totally simple. I press my key, the jack comes up, plucks the string and it drops down. And this little bit of felt dampens the string. So I have 2 keyboards here. Some harpsichords only had 1, but this is a French harpsichord with 2 sets of keys, and it has 3 sets of jacks and 3 sets of strings. So my lower manual, I'll just put that back on. My lower manual plays the set of string that is farthest away from this bridge. So it's a slightly rounder sound than the other set of strings. It's a very subtle, it's kind of like a flute and an oboe. The other thing I can do with a double manual harpsichord is that I can couple 2 strings together and I can have them both playing at the same time, because this gives me the possibility of dynamics. Because a harpsichord, when you pluck the string, no matter how hard I hit the key, it's not going to get any louder. So we don't have dynamics like the piano. The piano was called pianoforte, meaning soft and loud, because they were trying to, after the harpsichord, they were trying to develop the idea of dynamics on a keyboard instrument, which you don't have naturally here. But as I showed you, you have this more nasal one, the slightly warmer down, and this is the 2 together. There is one more trick, and it's that there's a 3rd set of strings and a 3rd set of jacks, that the strings are half the length of the what we call the 8-foot ones. So these are playing an octave above. Put that on. So you can go from that loud to that soft. So now I'd like to tell you about this particular instrument, which is very interesting. You will see that there's a date in the middle of the soundboard of 1738, and the name of the maker is there around the rows. He was a man called Antoine Vater, and so he made the instrument. He lived in Paris, and he made the instrument in 1738. And it has survived to this time, which is really wonderful. And we believe that there are it is one of 3 Antoine Vater harpsichords left in the world, which is very fantastic to have it. He had a brother called Christian Vater, and there's one of his harpsichords. Now, they were a German family originally, and Christian stayed in Germany and made German harpsichords. But and there's only one of his, and it's in Nuremberg, in the museum, the instrument museum in Nuremberg. And Antoine came to Paris, and he was very influential because he taught Hempsch, and Hempsch was a very important instrument maker in Paris in the 18th century. But there is also another very interesting connection, because he was friendly with Telemann, the composer, and he actually published his music. So Telemann came to visit Paris. We know that he spent a year in Paris, and guess what date? 1738. And where did he stay? He stayed with his friend and publisher Antoine Vater. So we can now imagine that this instrument, made in 1738, Telemann must have known it and presumably played it. So that is a lovely historical connection with this instrument. There is one other thing I'd like to show you, and that is that you can see the decoration is very typical of what harpsichords were like in the 18th century. Of course, there were more sumptuous ones, but this was your sort of standard harpsichord decoration. And we have the famous Carmentel aquarelles. He did aquarelles of various composers, and this is the famous one of Mozart when he came and played in Paris. His sister and Nonette, and his father playing the violin behind. And if you look at the harpsichord he's playing, we think it was a Hempsch who studied making harpsichords with Vater, and you can see the legs, the vermilion interior of the case just shown there, and the stand with the gold banding, and you have the gold banding rather faded on this harpsichord, but it could easily be restored. That would have been gold leaf. So that's another interesting connection. I'm going to play 2 pieces by Danglebert. I'll play one on the lower manual, which is a little bit quieter. And this is a very interesting piece that the French harpsichordists love to do. It hasn't got any bar lines, so it's a free prelude. And they sort of came from being the beginning of a suite of dances, perhaps. So a prelude was just an opening. with the forefoot.